What's up, guys? How we doing today? This is Zach with KT Outdoors. Hey, it is the last week of February, starting today, Sunday. This is Sunday of the last week of February. Advanced apologies if Cockadoodle-Doo back there decides to make an appearance in the video, but it's the last week of February, which means here in Zone 6B, the way we do things, it's time to start thinking about getting some seeds started. In fact, I might be a little bit behind schedule, but we're going to finally get going. If you'd like to see how we do it, that's coming up next. All right, so we do almost all of our seed starting in this, I'm going to use the word inherited greenhouse. It is not the system that I would build or design. I absolutely dislike this like opaque, fibrous, weird stuff that's on there, but it's what was here when we moved in, so it's what we use. I have plans to kind of tear apart this front part. You'll see when we get in there if you haven't seen any of my other videos on this in the past. But I have plans to, hopefully someday take at least the front off and replace it with this same kind of clear plastic that's here on the door. Those are just some scraps from some other projects, and so we kind of started piecemealing it together. But I'd like to replace this front part here all with like the good clear plastic, and then also the roof, because that roof is same basic system. It's kind of an issue. I'm going to turn the camera around. I'll kind of show you the outside of the shed a little bit. I might talk through it or I might voice over later. I haven't decided yet, but inside we kind of have a unique thing set up that I really enjoy that's worked well for us the past couple years. So if you have something like this might be a way to use it. Okay, so you can see right away, this stuff, like look at all this like fiberglass, whatever that stuff is. Like I'm sure it probably makes it stronger. I have no idea how old it is. It's been here forever. Like ever since we moved in. I mean, I guess that's not forever, but. And then what I really don't like about it is that on the surface of the roof structure, it starts to do this. So you can see all this like lichen, algae type stuff that's growing on the top there. Well, that's just blocking out the light. Like all that does is block out the light, which is annoying. Now in the summertime, I guess there's kind of a bonus there because it's sort of like having built-in shade cloth. But this time of year when I'm trying to get things growing, I'd really love the extra light. So we'll see what we end up doing down the road, but this structure leaves a lot lacking, but we have been able to kind of retrofit it to meet our needs. This is a key part of this deal. In the summertime when it starts to get hot in there, we can take that panel down that's on the back side there, and that allows some air to flow in there. And actually I hang a box fan from a couple screws that are up top there on the inside and pull the air from out here into there, and then put another one in the back and kind of create some cross ventilation to keep it a little bit cool in there. So couldn't figure out why she was having such a conniption back there, and it was because that egg had fallen out of the nest and she was trying to get it back up in there. I don't know how well I got that on camera, but it's a nice segue into how we have set this shed up. So when I got here, this was all one big greenhouse system. This shelving system that the cats are sitting on over here under the heat lamps extended the whole length. You can kind of see it. It's still even back here. Now we're using it as a catch to catch all the rabbit manure so we can use that for fertilizer later. But that went down both sides of the greenhouse. And then they actually had, if you can, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. See the light socket up there? They actually had this really intriguing system that I never used that was, you'll see a thermostat right there. So those pipes ran up to this system of piping, and he had heat lamp bulbs, just like the one that's right there that we use for like starting chicks and stuff, right? Like those ran through the whole greenhouse. And so he had it set on a thermostatic control, which is really intriguing because a thermostat, if you think about it, is just a switch, right? So you plug in a bunch of heat lamps. I think there was 4 down each side. So there would have been 8 total in this greenhouse when he had it operating the way he had it set up. You set that thermostat to like 40 or 50. Temperature drops below 50. Heat lamps come on automatically. Warm it back up. Heat gets above 50. Heat lamps shut off. That way you save yourself some electricity. So if you are handy enough of an electrician, that may be an intriguing way to consider heating your greenhouse. I didn't really understand it at the time, and we weren't using it as a greenhouse back then. And so honestly, that infrastructure was in my way more than anything else. So I just took it all out. But as I was taking it out and learning more about greenhouse growing and what people do, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I understand exactly what he was doing now. And that's really kind of intriguing. I'm curious what the cost would have been to have that much electricity running through this greenhouse constantly. Just heat lamps on and off, on and off. On. If you were trying to grow year round particularly, that might have really been a less than cost effective way to heat this greenhouse. But nonetheless, it's an interesting system if you're debating options. So now that they've quieted down, since we got that egg back in there for him, so this space as it sits right now where the cats are, I've done 4 to 5. I think I can get 5 seed trays over there. There's some pictures from last season. I'll drop them in here, do a little drop in thing, whatever. So I can get 5 there. These are 4-foot shelves here that I just installed. And a seed starting tray is 11 inches wide, which means I can get 4 more sideways on those 16-inch, or they might even be 24s, on those shelves there. So I can get 4 more there and 4 more underneath them. And with enough of the ambient light from having clear walls all the way around, they should grow okay. To me, that would be a place to put seedlings that are already kind of off and going and growing. Particularly, we use this space a lot for things like lettuce and spinach and Swiss chard and kale and things like that here early in the season. And there's enough ambient light in here, even on a cloudy day like today, that they'll keep growing just fine. The other thing that I do sometimes if I'm worried about them is I rotate them. And so like, especially with only having one heat mat, because last year was the first year we tried a heat mat. So I rotated the trays so that they got a day on the heat mat and then a couple days off, and then a day on and a couple days off. And so you could kind of phase it that way, just as a way to kind of stretch limited resources, because I know some of us are limited resources, and that's just fine. So 8 there, 5 there, that gets us to 13 already. And then on this back wall, I started putting in this closet rod system. These shelves are 16 inches deep, which means I think one of those seed starting trays will sit on them and overhang just slightly. And so I have, with this system, which is maybe not the most cost-effective way, but with that rack system, I can put in as many racks as I want down this back wall and really start to expand how many trays we could hold in here until it was time to get them out into the growing space. That's part of the reason why I used the old white metal that we had laying around for this wall, is because I knew that it would reflect the light once we had seed trays system like this started to get set up. It's been a couple years now and I'm finally getting to it, but it just increases the amount of light that's in here when things are white. If you've ever been in a pure white house, then you know what I mean. Like, it just reflects more light when there's white everywhere. So that system will go in, and that should be nice. And then over here behind me is just our simple little seed starting setup. So once I finish getting all of this cleaned up, that's where we'll keep all of the potting mixes and all of those things. And we're just kind of in transition mode right now because I don't know how well you can see outside, but oops, yeah, see that white stuff on the ground? Yeah, it snowed like a lot, and I want to get growing, and there's snow on the ground. So I'm glad I have greenhouses, but kind of threw my calendar off because it got me confused. Now, for those of you who haven't seen this, I have other videos on this where I've talked about this in the past, but this is how we handle our chicken situation. It's kind of similar to Joel Salatin's system with their chickens in their greenhouses in the wintertime. That's actually where I got the idea. I don't know that I follow it exactly the way he does. What I use them for is a compost generating mechanism. So I'll put a video up here in the feed. You know, you can click on it if you want to go learn about how we do the compost thing. But basically, these guys got an amazing pile of full fall leaves. Like we just raked everything out of the yard and threw it in there. And you can see now by February what they've turned it into. It's basically powdered fluff. And in fact, that's one of the drawbacks of this system. You can see all the kind of spray foam and things up top there. When they do what chickens do in the back, and I'm trying to start seeds out here in the front, they kick up a lot of dust. That dust filters around here, and you can see it on, I mean, like it's on the lights. It's basically on everything in here because chicken scratching is a lot of dust. Like it just makes a big mess. So I can close this. This kind of helps some, but I'm hesitant to do that. I'm still kind of feeling out how I think the system works. I'm hesitant to do it because when everything's closed up here, this is south, so this side will get warm on a nice sunny day. This side not as much because it'll be shaded by this wall if I close everything off. So having this wall open allows the heat to kind of transfer between these two spaces and allows the rabbit waters to not freeze and some other things that are kind of beneficial to the system. So it's like everything in homesteading and gardening and doing your own thing, right? Like it's a little bit of give and take. The solution for problem one creates a problem for project X, and then you just play around. So I don't know. You know, I think I could potentially cover them with those clear plastic. There's clear plastic in that one. Those clear plastic domes would be one way to protect the seedlings until it's time for the chickens to move out and the dust issue settles. The other thing that I thought about is I could totally start wetting this down and try to reduce the dust load so that they wouldn't be able to kick up as much dust, which would start the composting process. So that's honestly a very viable option. If it started really composting all that dusty stuff, it would generate a little bit of heat, but I don't think it's deep enough or high enough volume on the floor there to actually generate any heat, at least not a sufficient amount. It would start breaking it down though, which I would not be opposed to, because then when I piled it up after they got out of there, it would be that much more broken down already. So wetting that down is an option. Covering the seedlings with something to keep the dust off of them is an option. But then the thing that's covering them is going to get covered with dust, which is going to block the light. So yeah, see, every solution just creates more problems. So I've been sitting here debating this, and I think with this new shelf system added, if everything were cleared off and it were just loaded with seed trays, it would hold 10 extra seed trays. The wire shelf system in front of it will hold 4 on the top shelf and 4 on the bottom shelf, which is 8 more, which means we've added 18 additional seed tray locations to the existing 5 to 8 that we had already in that space, which is just amazing. So I'm super excited to get in here and get growing because, you know, it's just time. It's time to do those things, and we're looking forward to it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll look to see you next time because we'll keep telling you, life's better when it's lived outdoors. Thanks for watching.